Today we're going to be making water kefir, and I've got a few things here that we need before we get started. We've got our kefir already set up. I've got some of these swing top glass bottles. I've got a big old honkin' measuring cup. I've got a funnel, a strainer, and an extra bowl. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is drain out my grains. And that is what the strainer is for. It'll just catch everything for us as we go. And then I can just kind of go like this and put all the grains into the bowl. Now at this point, this is where you would flavor it. So if there's any kind of flavoring that you want to add, some people will put in fruit. My kids like vanilla, so I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla for them. And you can measure this. A tablespoon is probably about good, but I'm just going to eyeball it. I might even put a little bit extra. And then this is ready to go into the bottle. I'm going to zoom you out a little, or lift you up a little bit so you can watch me pour this in. And you want to fill it up to right about here. Now, water kefir is a great natural probiotic. It's better than any of the pills or anything you'll buy in the store. It's just has way more, probioticness. I forget exactly how they put that, but it is very good for you. It's good for a lot of different things. I highly recommend looking it up and reading up on it. We used to do water kefir a few years ago, and we've gotten out of it because I'd come back from vacation and needed surgery and wasn't able to keep up with it. And I eventually let my grains die off. Just so sad. But there wasn't really a whole lot I could do about it at that time. So now we're back to making it again. And the kids are very happy because they love it when we make water kefir. It's like a natural, healthy soda. That's the best way to describe it. And you can add all kinds of different flavorings. I also will sometimes add some grape juice to it, and then it'll make it like a grape soda. I prefer the vanilla myself, but my husband really likes the grape, and the kids like both. Now, I'm going to lift this up so you can see what these grains actually look like. They almost look like little crystals, but they're kind of a gummy texture. And these are actually perfectly edible themselves too. You could just eat these, but you don't want to eat up all of your grains. However, at a certain point, if you start making water kefir, you will end up with so many grains that you won't know what to do with them because they do multiply. They are alive, essentially. So, and looks like I spilled a couple grains over into this, and that's not a big deal. They'll just end up in the bottle. So I will not worry about that or try to fish them out. somebody will just get one in their cup. And this is about where I like to fill my bottles up to. Now, when you finish with your bottle, what you will do is stick this onto your counter for a day or two, depending on how fizzy you want it to be. And then I recommend just burping the bottle, which is essentially lightly opening this over the sink, of course, or outside, so it doesn't make a mess, and then sticking it in the refrigerator to get cold. And you can drink it at any point after that. You could even drink it straight off the counter. It doesn't have to be cold to drink it, but it's just nicer. I mean, who wants to drink hot soda? Oh my gosh, I'm losing my voice for some reason. All right, so I'm going to finish straining this off, and then I will show you how to prep everything so that you can get a jar started. I did forget to mention that you are going to need sugar and something to measure it with. Now, all of my kefir is siphoned off into the bottles, and I've filled up my measuring cup with very, very hot water. Now, that's just straight from my tap. It is not heated other than what comes out of my sink, but my sink gets up to a scalding level of heat. So it will be hot enough to melt my sugar, which is what I need. You don't really need to heat it to a boil or anything like that. Now, this is a 1/2 cup measuring cup, and I'm going to put in 3 of these for 1.5 cups. You want to do roughly the same amount of sugar as what you have grains. And I have somewhere in the vicinity of 1.5 to 2 cups of grains. And I'm just going to mix this up. Now, I like to mix it up going in a back and forth motion instead of just spinning it, because the sugar tends to just spin around at the bottom if you go around in a circle. Whereas if you go back and forth like this, I find that it melts down a little bit easier or a little bit faster. It'll eventually melt the other way too. But now you can see I use a natural organic cane sugar, so it has a little bit of color to it. It's not that pure white sugar that you get. And that ends up changing the color of my water a little bit too, which is partly where the color of the water kefir comes from, at least mine. You'll notice that the color of yours will vary depending on what sugars you use. And now I'm just going to pour this into my large container that I do my ferment in, my first ferment. Oops. I always have to be careful with this measuring cup, because if I pour it too fast, all of the liquid comes out the side and spills. But I'm just going to put this in here. I usually get away with it at the end. And now I'm going to fill this up with cool, room temperature water, and use that to fill this up to right around this line. Now, if you're wondering, these jars are 2.5 liters. Oops, there I go, pouring it too fast again. I'm going to have a mess to clean up on my table. That's okay. It usually happens because I get impatient and I pour it too quick. And right about to there is good. And now I'm just going to go through and put my grains back into the jar. Normally I would use the same scooper that I used for the sugar, but I have a second jar that I need to do. So I want to keep that clean. I'm just going to grab another one of these scoopers. This one's a 1/4 cup, which just means it'll be double the amount of what I put in for the sugar. So instead of 3, it would be 6. Oops. A wayward grain just escaped onto the table and my sons are grabbing it. And I've lost count of how many I have put in there, but honestly, it's fine. This is close enough, and close enough is good enough in this. This is really more of an art than it is a science. So you don't have to stress if you have a little bit more or a little bit less grains than your sugar. Like I said, 1.5 to 2 cups for 1.5 to 2 cups of grains. So it can kind of vary within a 1/2 cup, I'd say. If you have more grains than you have sugar, then you probably want to stop the fermentation process sooner. Whereas if you have more sugar than you have grains, then you can let it go for an extra day or 2. So this is all set and ready to go up on the counter, and I will let this ferment for 2 to 3 days. Bless you. And sometimes it'll get away from me for a little bit longer, and it's fine. Don't stress out if you go a week without going through this process. Bless you. It's fine. Now, it might make your ferment a little bit less sweet. Some people might prefer that. Just don't let it go so long to the point that your grains are getting mushy. And if your grains do start getting mushy, then you're going to want to take really good care of them for a little bit to kind of restore their health. But it does not mean that they are gone. You can bring them back to health again.